Good morning. If you're joining us, I invite you to sit back, close your eyes if you're comfortable. Let's use this wonderful time and this opportunity to connect with our deeper selves. Relish, enjoy the silence. Let the music come to you, connecting with our bodies. Being aware of the breathing that's going on naturally. Bringing our awareness to air that's going in and the air that's coming out. Let's take 3 cleansing breaths, with each breath inhaling in slower and deeper, slightly more than the last one. Pausing and then breathing out, exhaling even slower. With each breath out, letting go a little, whatever is not needed in this moment. And after the 3 breaths, let the breathing go back in its natural cycle, natural mode. Staying with the breathing, with the awareness of the breathing. If the thoughts come, just come back to the breathing. Let's make an intention in our mind, closing the door, wherever you're sitting in that room, putting your things to do on the side, telling yourself you'll come back to those, committing to being present so that we can make the best use of this time. And with that, let's move our body, moving our fingers, our toes, or your body side to side. Bringing your palms together, rubbing them, and putting the warmth of your palms and your fingers over your eyes, your face, neck, shoulders, arms. And taking your time, opening your eyes whenever you're ready. So welcome to week 8. Today's theme is holistic health. And we will be covering what is holistic health, introducing you to Ayurveda. You may or may not have heard of that term before. We'll also talk about how to know your mind-body type, which will tell you your natural mind-body type that you were born with and where you may be out of balance today. And we'll start talking about some of the ways to balance yourselves starting today and in coming weeks. So with that, I have a wonderful guest speaker with me today, Trish. She's a life coach. With many of us who have been giving this program, she also was a part of the certification program with Deepak Chopra's coaching and holistic health and meditation. She works at a wonderful, magical intersection of, bringing her wonderful strengths of many years in corporate world and her passions. And she loves connecting with people who want to do more to uncover their true selves. Matter of fact, we also have an upcoming podcast, which will be coming in a few weeks. Trish, welcome. I'd like you to say any few words before we start.
Thank you. I just want to express my gratitude for being here. And I hope everybody can give themselves some gratitude for taking the time to work on themselves and just give themselves some time.
Beautiful. And I grabbed this wonderful quote from your new website that you just launched. We have 2 lives. The second one begins when we realize we have one. Beautiful quote. Thank you. All right. So with that, the quote I have for us today is, when we think of wellness, right, we often think of our physical body. And with holistic health, the way, what resonated and what I learned was that it's more than body. And instead of wellness, I actually like to use the term well-being. So we need a healthy body, right? So we can then practice, we can cultivate. We need a sound mind, and then we can have a tranquil spirit. So all of this coming together for our well-being as a journey. And the affirmation I have for us today is that I am an exquisite expression of nature. And we'll talk about how we'll actually, Ayurveda will show us that. And with our practices, we'll actually go beyond the words and we'll experience it. So our series, Holistic Health, which is one of the series I've covered before last year as well, and we'll redo this again after this 12-week series, is Holistic Health, and it's based on Deepak's book, Perfect Health. This book goes into, really motivating you, inspiring you to create daily routines that help you balance, that help you unlock better mental, physical, and spiritual health, all of this in a holistic way. And in coming weeks, we'll talk about some of the pillars that Deepak talks about, which is 6 pillars of health. But let's first start with a few people in. Okay, let's first talk about Ayurveda. You may have heard of this term. Ayurveda is a Sanskrit word. You can divide it into 2 parts, Ayu and Veda. Ayu in Sanskrit means life, and Veda means science. So therefore, you can think of it as science of life. It's a 5,000-year-old science that has been practiced and continuously, studied. And matter of fact, Deepak has done a wonderful job of clinically testing it, right, and showing that it works. And one of the reasons I was attracted to Ayurveda is that it's preventative. So the beautiful thing that I like is that, Deepak talks about that through studies that they have shown that we may carry the genes of certain diseases from, because we were born with certain tendencies. As an example, I always thought that, both my grandfathers had diabetes and heart attacks, that it was only natural. It runs in my family. However, Ayurveda shows us that, we can prevent it. We can delay it, we can eliminate it, we can reduce it. Or if we stay with the stress and anxiety that we all carry, perhaps we can fast forward it. But, for our wellness and well-being, it gives us many, many simple techniques that we'll start to touch on in which we can change our lives. Simply absence of disease is not health. Rather, if we can change our expressions, we can change anything around us, we can change our lives. And one of the principles in Ayurveda is around consciousness, right? That it's one consciousness that expresses itself in different forms. And another way to think of it is, like we're thinking holistic health, is in terms of body, mind, spirit, or in terms of physical, mental, and spiritual. Today, we'll just lightly touch on that Ayurveda further goes into layers of life. Each of these layers has many, many different parts. In our holistic health in future, you can come back and we'll cover each one of these in detail. I'll give you one example. On the top, when you see the physical, we generally think of our body, right? However, environment is also part of us. As an example, every second we're breathing in and we're breathing out. The trees that, although may exist, feel quite far away from us when we look out, they're part of us. They are helping with that oxygen and carbon dioxide, as an example. And again, we'll go layer by layer in future. But today, the message I want to leave you simply is that, again, it's that one consciousness. Everything around us is consciousness. It's just in a different form. We are one of those forms. We're part of that wholeness which is the entire universe. And this is where in a meditation, when we meditate with a mantra like Aham Brahmasmi, or I am infinite, we can slowly start to peel back the layers of I am, first name, last name, I'm first name, and then simply I am, and start to feel that I'm part of the infinite, the universe, everything that exists. And then few other things that I love about Ayurveda that attract me is that there's no one size fits all. You'll see that it can give you personalized tips and techniques and recommendations based on your unique characteristics. And we'll get to those in a minute. And then again, it's preventative. Like I said, you can start to make smaller choices, which will help you. We've covered water as an example, drinking water in the morning, or sleep, or circadian rhythms, things that you can start to do that will, again, tap into the healing abilities that we have. Just like in the sleep we said, if we can get enough of deep sleep, our bodies can heal. And lastly, these are practical, small things we can do other than water, simple movement or meditation. And with that, I'll kick us off, and then Trish will take over, is that there's a wonderful concept of mind-body constitutions, as you see here in the photo. And each one of us leads with or has one or more of these combinations. And I'm going to hand it now to Trish to take us through these.
All right, great. So Ayurveda is amazing, and it's also extremely complex. So you're probably going to have a lot of questions as we go through this. You probably already have questions from what you've heard already. I would suggest just using your journals to write down some of the questions. I think some of them will get answered as part of this program in the next few weeks coming, and then in the following holistic health program. So just capture those things that you're curious about, and hopefully we can get to some of those answers. So the basic foundation of Ayurveda is that we are nature, and we as human beings are part of all of nature. And because we're part of all of nature, we embody the 5 elements that nature has as well. And everything in us, about us, our spirit, our soul, our energy, our body is all about these 5 elements. So the first one that I'll talk about is space. That's the one that people usually ask the most questions about, because what does that really mean? It just means big, expansive space. And it could mean the space you're sitting in right now. It could be the space when you lay down on the grass and look up into the sky. So it's that, it's that where you exist in, whatever that space is. The second is air. And we already alluded to air when we do our breathing. We have lots of air in our body. That's what keeps us going. The third is fire. So fire is heat. Fire is our digestive system. Fire is emotions. When you get hot with emotions, that's your fire from nature. Water is, most of us are 60% of our bodies are made up of water, everything down to our bones. So we have a lot of water in our bodies. That's why it's important, as I think you already covered, that you keep drinking the water, you get water from foods that you eat, etc. And then earth is that grounding part of us. Earth is those bones that are in us. It's that solid structure that sort of holds us up, just like the earth, the ground that we stand on or that we sit on holds us up as well. And so all of these parts of nature are in us. And really, we all have all 5 of these in us. What's different about us is how much of each of these we have. You want to flip to the next slide? All right, so those 5 elements group into 3 things called doshas. And that's what I was just referring to, is that we each have our own makeup and our own constitutions, both mind and body, of these 5 elements. And there are 3 different kinds, and that's what we'll spend a little time on today, is understanding what these 3 are. And as I'm talking, you may see yourself in some of these. So Vata is primarily a combination of air and space. Remember, we have all 5 in all of us. It's just that those that are a Vata dosha have higher in air and space. A Vata, an animal that you can think of that sort of represents Vata really, really well, is a hummingbird. A hummingbird is constantly in motion, it's creative, it moves around a lot, it's enthusiastic, it's just always moving from one thing to the next. So when you watch a hummingbird, they're just going, going, going. It's really hard to get a picture of a hummingbird because they're constantly moving. And when a Vata is in balance, it's energetic, you're creative, you're adaptable, spontaneous. You like change, you like to move from one thing to the next. Like that all feels really good and lively. And when you're imbalanced, so you have too much of that space and air, that's when the anxiety and the worry and the inconsistency comes in. And you'll notice that this is not just about mind, but it's also about body. And so the physical makeup of Vatas is typically a little smaller, slimmer. And again, when they're balanced, everything in the body is working very well. But when they get imbalanced, that's where insomnia comes in, where constipation comes in, actual fatigue of the body comes in. And so, I believe, just like Ayurveda does, that we are perfect exactly the way we are. But what happens is we get a little far away from our true self, or we get imbalanced. And the beauty of this is that you can identify with your self-awareness and your stillness. You can identify that, oh, I'm feeling really anxious. If you're a Vata, I'm feeling really anxious and worried. Oh, I'm a bit imbalanced. And then you're going to learn ways to bring yourself back into balance as a Vata. So this is all about awareness of understanding where you are there. The next one is Pitta. So Pitta is the 2 elements that are primary in Pitta are fire and water. And you'll see that the body type there is more of a medium body type, a little bit more sturdy and grounded, sort of bigger bones, things like that from a Vata. A Pitta can be very focused and intelligent and decisive. The animal that I use to describe Pitta is an eagle, where an eagle sort of flies around, assesses the situation, and then when they know what they want to do, they swoop down, get what they need, and then swoop back up again. And so when Pittas are balanced, they're very much like an eagle. So if you're a Pitta and you're feeling like a hummingbird, then you're imbalanced. And so you can, again, identify that. And what happens with Pittas is, I'm a Pitta, so I know this one really well. Warm when I'm balanced, I'm warm, friendly, focused. And then if I get angry or I get short-tempered with people, that's when I know I'm imbalanced. Lots of Pittas physically get rashes and inflammation and indigestion as well. That's the physical part of the imbalance. So, and you can see how these elements play with each other, because if you're imbalanced, you may have too much fire. And so water can help you sort of dampen that fire. And these are just little ways that you can start to think about how you move from balance or imbalance to balance again. I'm sure as you're all listening, you are starting to see some things that may sound familiar to you. So kapha is the third dosha, and this is the dosha that's very grounded, sort of can slow and steady wins the race kind of thing, is unruffled. The animal that you might want to think about here is a swan, where they just sort of move very majestically through. They're, they can be very steady, very consistent. They're not, moving around all the time. They're sort of there, and they're not flying up here and there and going to all different places. They're moving themselves around. They have patience, and they're very loyal people. And the two elements are water and earth. For some reason, the earth isn't showing up there. But again, you can feel that when you look at these balanced things, you can feel earth, right? Grounded. When you get imbalanced, you can see that in the words that are on the slide, where you're inert, you're dull, complacent. So imbalance is like stuck in the earth, like you can't get yourself going. And that's where kaphas may, when they're imbalanced, they may resist change. If they're lethargic, they can be overweight because they're not moving enough, because that's where they get either imbalance, and they can get very protective of the current environment. And so that's sort of a summary of the kapha. So what does all this mean, and how do you know what you are? This is a very interesting question, because Ayurveda teaches that you are born a certain dosha. And that's, you can take a quiz, which you'll receive to take, and called a Prakriti quiz. And that is what you were born with. What I would say to this is, when you fill out that quiz, if you've had any sort of trauma in your life, or you've had any serious physical diseases, I have a client who, was diagnosed with diabetes when they were in college. So they had to go back when they were filling out that quiz to before that. I had another client who filled out the whole quiz and then was, almost done. And she was like, I wasn't really like this in high school. And so she had this moment of like, wow, I've been so imbalanced that I actually believed I was naturally a certain way. Naturally, she was in high school, she was much more fluid and much more like a Vata, willing to like move around and stuff. And now she was much more like, I got to achieve and keep, and I have to get all of these things, as opposed to I have to be creative and go with the flow. And so she realized she had to go back and really retook the whole quiz, going back to how she felt in high school. And I had another client, same thing. He said his sophomore year in college was like, something happened in that year and everything sort of changed for him. So this is a very important part of filling out your Prakriti quiz. Your Vikruti quiz is a current quiz. It's how you're feeling in the last 30 to 60 days. And what that will tell you is, it will tell you where those imbalances are. So if you're a Pitta, it may tell you that you have, a lot of Vata in your mind, and it's a mind-body questionnaire, both of them. And so you'll be able to realize where those imbalances are. There may be a big body imbalance. And so you'll be able to see where those balances are. And that Vikruti quiz is something you can keep taking. If you take it, then you can take it 60 days from then and see, I worked on these things. I created these daily habits. I made some changes. Am I feeling better balanced? And, what still might be out of balance, and how can I work on that? So this is like sort of a lifelong thing that you can constantly do and evolve. And you may not take it for a year and then say, oh gosh, I'm really feeling imbalanced. I'm going to take that quiz and see where I can focus to get back into balance.
Trish, I've shared the links in the chat. I will also send it in an email if we have your emails. Definitely take both the quizzes, they're free. And then in every week in the remaining program, we'll talk about what, if your results were this, what can you do with different practices that we'll be doing.
And there's one comment in here about, seeing all of the descriptors of imbalanced and feeling like that's you. That's what those descriptors are for, is to be able to, I'm imbalanced here. So the beauty is understanding your imbalance. When you take your quiz, you'll know where your natural state is, and you'll be able to get back in balance. And that's what I absolutely love about Ayurveda. It's basically a balancing way to look at your overall well-being. And we do this very naturally. So when it's cold in the winter, we want to sit by the fire. We want to, eat and drink warm food. So that is basically us balancing ourselves out, where we're saying, okay, I'm cold, I'm going to add warmth in. And so if I'm feeling very anxious and very airy and spacey, then I'm going to do something grounding. And so that's what Ayurveda is all about. It's understanding where you are, and then how can you introduce that opposite. And, we experience life through our five senses. So our five senses are very, very important in creating that balance. And if you think about the five senses, there's smell, sight, and sound. The S's, they help balance the mind more. And then the two T's, taste and touch, they help balance the body. And so as you really get into this and understand through your quizzes, etc., where things are imbalanced, you then can know, what can I do with my senses to get more more balanced. And whether I want to focus on my mind or my body. The other thing about Ayurveda, and you've already covered some of these, I call them pillars. I use a flower. I call them petals. I use a flower, but, Ayurveda calls them pillars, and Chopra calls them pillars. They're the 6 pillars of Ayurveda. And these are the tools that you have to create that balance that you want in your life and create that dream life that you want. So there's 6 of them. I have meditation and sleep. I call my bookends, because meditation allows you to get quiet, while you're in your waking state, and sleep helps you get quiet in the sleep stage and regenerate yourself. And so working on those 2 things really helps you get the space in your mind and the stillness in your energy to be able to focus on the others as well. And so meditation is a key part of Ayurveda, getting into that stillness. Movement is one that I think gets misconstrued in the world today. It doesn't have to be like you go to a gym and you have to work out. Everybody has different things that they like about movement. I'm a walker. If I don't walk every day, I sort of feel like, okay, my day just doesn't feel right. So I really try to get walking in every day. And some days it's more strenuous uphill. Some days it's a very casual beach walk. And so movement can be your breath. Pranayama, that's your air moving in your body. So there's all different ways to get movement in your life. Nutrition is another thing that is really important, and that there's a lot of ways that food is what fuels us, and looking at food and thinking about food in different ways is really, really important. It's not about, just counting calories. And it's also not just about the food we eat. It's also about how we eat the food and the mindfulness around the food we're eating. Emotional freedom is some of the work that was covered in last week's class, really understanding that stress level. Stress is the source of all chronic illness. And so the more we can identify our stress and use different techniques to be able to bring us back to the present moment and back to where we can affect things as opposed to sort of living in the past or catastrophizing the future. That's a lot of what emotional freedom is about. Self-care it goes beyond the lovely baths that are a part of self-care, but there's things like oral care and massages that you can give yourself, things that you can do for yourself each day, journaling, other things there. And then I think you covered a lot on sleep already. But those are really the 6 areas. So when you're thinking about what your daily routines are and what your days look like and where you might be imbalanced, these different petals can play different roles in getting back into balance.
Yes, and as we said, we've covered some of these. We'll cover some of these in coming weeks, and then more in detail in the Holistic Health series. So with that, let's do a little stretching, and I invite you to join me. And actually, I'll slightly modify a wonderful Chinese workout, Qigong workout, which is 5 elements as well. There's a slight difference between Indian and Chinese 5 elements, but I'll modify it. So let's begin with a nice standing posture. Let me stop sharing here. All right. Let's make sure we balance. Bring our feet that they're parallel, about 6 to 18 inches apart, and bring our palms in front of us. And breathing in. Slowly, let's bring our arms to the sides and imagine feeling the presence of the space. So connecting with that first element, space. And continuing the breathing. As you breathe in, bring your palms in front of you, like a triangle. And imagine looking up to the sun, feeling the heat, feeling the warmth coming to your body. And now connect with the fire element. And imagine wood burning and ashes start to fall down. And the ashes come to earth. And from earth, breathing in, feeling the air. And then going into water. So slightly stretching behind trying to bring your elbows closer and then relax on the sides. Planting your feet down a little bit more, feeling yourself grounded. Bringing your palms on the side, relax, feel centered, feel grounded, connected to earth. Let's move side to side. Let's do some tapping to increase our energy, to wake our bodies up. Flat palm or a fist, starting from your fingers. Tap your arms inside, around the shoulders, back of the arms. Do what's comfortable. Skip a certain part or do more. Listen to your body. Just like when we yawn, our body guides us on where it needs what stretch. Adjust as needed. Think you're waking up your body. You're releasing the tension. You're opening the blockages. And let's do one time lower body. So let's start from our lower back, tapping around the waist, going down your thighs to the top of the knees. If you're comfortable, continue down towards the outside of the ankles, or you can stay here. Inside of the ankles, slowly come back up from inside of the legs, and ending in your stomach. And rubbing your palms, putting it over your face again, your hair, neck, shoulders, and feeling refreshed, feeling awoke, waking up, buzzing going on, and hopefully your heart is beating faster. You had a nice workout. And with that, let's come back to our chairs, our mats. And Trish will lead us into a meditation.
All right. Let's get comfortable in our chairs or however you're sitting. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, you can do that now too. If you're not comfortable closing them, just put your gaze down to the ground. And just notice the space that you're in. Notice how that space emanates out from you, all the way out through the room you're in, out through the building you're in, out into nature, up into the sky. Recognizing that that space is where you occupy, and that it's all around you. And then focus on that air moving in and out of your lungs. And as you breathe in that air, breathe in all that you need in this moment. When you breathe out, let go of anything that's not serving you. Your air and your breath can allow you to bring in what you need and what you want, and help you let go of what's not wanted or needed right now. The air is always with you. And then put your focus on your whole body. Visualize your blood flowing through your veins, pumping from your heart, down through your extremities, out through your extremities. In that blood is water, helping all your organs function, delivering what you need to all the parts of your body. And now visualize in your gut a bright orange light. The fire that's helping you digest your food. That fire helps you digest your emotions. Helps you see your intuition. And then focus on where your feet lie. Visualize your whole body as a wide, powerful trunk of a tree. And out from your feet come roots, rooting into the earth, going deeper and deeper into the earth, allowing you to be grounded, allowing you to feel powerful and strong. Allowing you to handle whatever life brings to you. Whether it's the wind that moves your branches around, whether it's the rain that you need to absorb to live, whether it's more space to grow, those roots are allowing you to do all of that. And then quietly in your head, you can repeat the mantra, I am whole and healthy. I am whole and healthy. And then come back and just notice that breath, that air going in and out, remembering it's all there, all the time for you. And when you're ready, you can wiggle your toes and your fingers coming back into this space you're in. And you can flutter your eyes open.
All right, so welcome back. It's time to take some action. We invite you again to bring your diaries, golden books in front of you. And let's take some action, right? And information is plentiful. We hear a lot of things, but take 30 seconds, take a minute. What did you learn today? Was there one word, one concept that resonated with you? What actions do you want to take? What will you take? What are you committing today to do something different? Trish, I love the part about movement and walking. So, and myself committing to and I'll further add, or you can share in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself, you're welcome to as well. I love the part about the tree, the roots, right? To me, that's like centering myself, grounding myself to earth, feeling the water. That was beautiful as well. As the blood is flowing, the water's flowing, the feeling the air, looking at the space, looking at the stars. So thank you. So yes, please share. I love it. Harmony, calmness. Again, we invite you to share more in the chat. That's one way of you committing, right? Sharing with the world what you will do. And let's each of us hold each other accountable, inspire and motivate each other. So take the quiz. I've shared the links in the chat. I will also send it in the email. You will find out what is your natural state of balance and where you may be out of balance. As an example, every time I travel, I have a vata imbalance. I'm all over the place. I have too many things in my mind. And we'll starting with next week, start covering if your score is this, if you had the vata imbalance, what can you do from a touch and a taste will be next week. And similarly, following weeks will be do more. So start to notice what causes you out of balance, whether it's a food, it is a certain, again, use the senses. If you look at something, does it bring you in balance? Does it take you out of balance? Similarly, music, right? If does the music calm you down, or certain music get you out of balance? And again, we'll share more ways for you to come back in balance. And at the end, thank you, Trish. If you'd like to share again about your site and what kind of work you do, if people want to reach you and where they can follow you.
Yeah, I put in the chat there. My website is my daily and then an actual dash and then the word dash.com. And in the blog part of that website, there is some information on the doshas. It's brand new, so I'm constantly adding each week more information. So you can keep going back to that. And my Instagram is at my_daily_dash. There's a lot of information on that around the different dosha types as well. We focused on that about a month ago or so. And I would also say that I do a dosha consultation as well. And it's, basically an hour that we spend together after you take your quizzes, and we can just talk about what's balanced and how to figure out what some daily habits might be to get back into balance, one step at a time. And to always just want to remind everybody, give yourself grace when you fill out the quizzes. If you're imbalanced, it's just where you are. Don't beat yourself up about being imbalanced. Just thank yourself for taking the time to take the quiz and to understand better how you can get back in balance, and just take one step at a time, one day at a time, and give yourself grace throughout.
All right. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you next week. And look out for the emails with the quizzes as well as the upcoming podcast with Trish. Wonderful topic of the stories we tell ourselves and how we can change that. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.